Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's 1 Million by 1 Million Strategy Roundtable for Entrepreneurs. This is a public roundtable for the 1 Million by 1 Million Global Virtual Accelerator. Our mission is to help 1 million entrepreneurs reach $1 million and beyond in annual revenue. And in support of that mission, we do these roundtables every week almost. There are some few weeks during the year if I'm traveling that we are not here, but this is our 468th session. So you can imagine we've been doing this for a very long time and very consistently. We started experimenting with this method of engagement, roundtable mentoring, back in 2008. And at the time, we didn't really know how all this was going to pan out, but it was very well received and very effective. So we ended up building the 1 Million by 1 Million accelerator on top of this experiment, which is our free mentoring roundtable. So that's just a bit of historical perspective. The event is being recorded. You will find recordings of this and all other events, all our other free roundtables on our YouTube channel. By the way, we use the same method for our private roundtables, which is for members only. That's the paid program. You will find the recordings on 1M1M Roundtable, our YouTube channel. And if you are live tweeting on Twitter today, please use hashtag 1M1M. And our Twitter handles are 1M by1M and @Romana. You can follow either of those. Again, lots of rich, interesting, constructive content that will help you learn a lot. We got the call-in numbers. We're not quite ready for call-in. We have a bunch of scheduled programming first, but we will be ready, and we want you to participate. So by all means, plan on calling in or participating in public chat and so on, so that this really becomes a roundtable. It is a roundtable. We want you to not be passive, but actively participate.
Okay.
Today, we're going to start our session with a conversation with Karthee Madasamy, founder and managing partner of Mobile Foundation Ventures. Karthee, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Romana. How are you? Glad to be here.
Great. Well, let's get you introduced to our audience. Tell us a bit about your background, a bit about Mobile Foundation Ventures, and let's situate the context of this call, of this conversation.
Sure thing. So we are a $75 million early stage venture fund, Series A focus, a post-seed, Series A focus, and we invest in Deeptech. The phrase is a little bit odd, but what we look at is we look at tech differentiated companies that have tech as a primary differentiation factor. So we look at Series A companies that are trying to disrupt traditional industries like automotive, manufacturing, agriculture, some of these services as well, using tech as a primary way to enable the disruption. And so we started last year. We've done about 7 investments. We've done about 7 investments so far. As background, before this, I spent 11 plus years at Qualcomm Ventures. I was the managing director there. In addition to investing in the US, I started the office for Qualcomm Ventures in Israel, India, and we started exploring in Southeast Asia as well at the time. Before that, I spent 10 plus years doing startups in Silicon Valley, mid-90s. I come from a technology background, electrical engineering. The funny thing was 24 years ago, the master's thesis that we were doing was in AI, but it was just not a proven tech at the time. It's just funny how things come back in a circle with good computing power now, and then a few more breakthroughs. Now AI is just applied everywhere, but at that time it was still underperforming. But anyway,
yeah,
so
I completely resonate with you. In the late 90s, mid to late 90s, I was doing AI companies. It was too early. And I remember this journalist, Malik, who was a friend of mine, he was making fun of me because I was doing AI. And it's like, now AI is all the rage.
Exactly.
Okay.
Okay, I think the technology has come along as well, but anyway, yeah.
Yeah, timing is everything. So let's talk a bit about the kinds of companies you are investing in and the stage at which you like to come in. So you've talked about deep tech. Is it all B2B, deep tech in the context of B2B, or do you also do B2C?
I think it's primarily B2B. I think doesn't have to be necessarily B2B, but it's largely B2B. I mean, the example that I would give is that at Qualcomm Ventures, I invested in Waze, even though it is a B2C application, if you will, but there's fundamental technology behind it to create maps on the fly and create traffic patterns and things like that. So we would look at, in our current fund, some B2C companies that have a significant technology element as a differentiator. But it's largely, I think I would say 90% plus would be probably B2B tech.
Yeah. And stage, what do you like to see in companies before you're willing to write a check?
Yeah, so we look at post-seed. So Series A is where we look at, and I think there is a gap in Series A, I would say. We're definitely seeing that there is enough, there's a lot of seed stage funds who are writing smaller checks. So first $2 to $3 million can get filled by enough venture funds out here. At the same time, there are enough bigger funds writing larger checks in later rounds and whatnot. I think the way we see the gap, especially for deep tech or tech differentiated businesses, Series A, because these are companies that need larger amount of capital. They are at a stage where they need larger amount of capital, that is $5 to $15 million. They have some early product market fit, but they still have ways to go. So that's where our focus is. So we don't invest in more concepts or PowerPoint slides and things like that, but we look at companies that have at least got into a product, got into early customer discussions. The early product market fit is what we're looking for. Sometimes they have revenues. So if it's largely software IP related companies, even at a Series A stage, they have some revenues. Sometimes in full stack, which is hardware plus software, they have more NRE revenues or early customer traction pilots, but not necessarily repetitive revenues yet. And then there are some very hard tech like some semiconductor modules and things like that, where they may be pre-revenue. So we don't look at revenues as an indicator, but what we look for is companies that have taken few steps to the product, and then there's some early product market fit, and we're looking to raise between 5 and 15, which basically means they've crossed the seed stage, if you will, and that's where we look at it. And that's where we also see the gap today in the market globally, but I think we focus largely in the United States, so North America, and we definitely see that as a gap, especially for deep tech companies.
And what size checks do you write?
So right now we write between 1 and 3 million, where we may go up to maybe 4 million check when we go in. And then we keep about 1-to-1 reserve for follow-on rounds. So ideally between $5 and $7 million we keep per company. Again, depends on the company. And then we can lead around, for example, a small Series A, $7-8 million Series A, we can actually lead around. Some larger Series A will actually follow the lead syndicate type of things. We can do either.
But if it's a 1 million check, you can do that yourself.
Right.
Yeah, great. We will have probably stuff to talk about soon.
Sure. Yeah.
So let's, as the next segment of the conversation, let's kind of double-click down on your portfolio and talk about some companies that you've invested in that you feel good about, and help us think through or help us understand what drew you to those companies. How did they find you, or how did you find them? And what did you see in them when they came to you? What did you see in them that made you want to invest in them?
Sure.
So a couple of
sure thing. So we've done about 6 investments, closing on our 7th investment as well. So I'll talk about maybe a couple of companies so that it gives a flavor of the type of things that we invest in. So one company that we'll talk about is 20 Billion Neurons, which is a Toronto and Berlin-based company. What they do is they do computer vision for action recognition real time at the edge. I think image recognition has become almost like a table stake today. But when we were looking at it, we thought that doing something on the video is much more complex than doing anything on the image, and going beyond just the object recognition is an important factor we felt in terms of understanding common sense, understanding high-level context, which is where we are going towards more and more towards. It's not just recognizing some patterns, but it's also recognizing high-level context. So it was a high-level thesis that we had because we had done image recognition companies in the past, and how things have moved to the point where that is now table stake. But I think still complex stuff is not being recognized easily by an automated machine. So we were looking for that type of companies. So 20 billion is actually founded by students of Jeff Hinton, who's the Turing Award winner, the father of modern AI. So these guys have built a technology which can actually recognize very complex actions at real time at the edge itself. So that was when we first got introduced through another investor or through another partner. We were looking at the space, and we hadn't seen actually too many companies in the space. It was a much complex problem. We actually very quickly grown attached to that. Okay, let's try to understand this more. And in terms of finding companies, I think a lot of it comes through our network. Which for an entrepreneur, that's one of the things that we push as well, is that use your network. And but anyway, this got introduced through a partner, and so we started evaluating them. So the thing that we liked was the key way they are differentiating in terms of technology to get this thing done that we have not seen before. And then second, the technology was very robust in terms of how well they performed. So we compared that to other companies that we had seen or other technologies that we had seen. We really like the technology. And the third thing is the entrepreneurs themselves. So there was definitely a willingness to understand how to take this technology and then go after market. There's definitely the willingness to engage in a discussion, engage in a conversation to figure out, push and pull. I think that's one of the important things at the earlier stage.
What application did they tell you they were going to go after as they started approaching you and you were evaluating them for investments? It's kind of horizontal technology, but I imagine you looked for an application to zero in on, yeah?
Yeah, that's right. So there were a few areas that this could apply. There was obviously anything that has a complex process that needs to be recognized. This technology could be applied. So they had applications around anything that is actions, which could be around any human-machine interaction in automotive, anything on retail, anything around health, anything around the process in manufacturing. So there's a bunch of different applications. So the two applications that they went after were, one is around retail, where there's human-machine interaction, and the second was around health and fitness, where how do you understand a complex exercise routine that you are doing, type of a thing. So those are the two applications that they went after. So I think in some of the cases where you're looking at technology companies, that's the key thing to bridge, like where can this be applied. And we had a few vertical focus where we could validate some of these applications as well. I think we kind of focused around retail and manufacturing and health as some of the verticals that this could be applied, and they've been progressing on that ever since.
And how big was the investment?
So this was a $10 million round that M2L, Microsoft's venture fund, us, and Coperion, which is a German fund, all three of us invested. So it's a $10 million Series A. It is a prototypical round that we do. This is a company that already had like 15 people, and they had early customer success in terms of deployment. Not necessarily like recurring revenue type of a thing, but at least early customer adoption. And a sizable round where the company needs this capital to actually grow and build.
Karthee, one question that arises from this discussion that I would like to explore for the benefit of our audience is how do you view long sales cycle enterprise deals? Because it sounds like the kinds of technologies that you like the most are these deep technologies catering to large enterprise customers where there is typically a long sales cycle. So, if you're doing little deals, you can get into some amount of recurring revenue quickly. You can start showing some MRR statistics, etc., quickly. But if you're really talking about very large enterprise deals, often that is not the case. The product takes some time to build, and you can get validation through, pain point endorsement from enterprises, but not yet quite, checked. Well, how do you deal with these situations?
Yeah, so I think it's a very good question. It's a very interesting point as well in terms of, especially as an early stage investor, how are you looking at this? We actually look for technologies that are solving significant problems. I think that's the first place we start with. So we look for companies that are trying to solve big problems. So when that happens, first of all, what we have seen is that there is a natural pulling from the enterprise themselves because they are also trying to solve this. So they're looking actively for companies like that. It interests them quite a bit. It doesn't go into the traditional arguments around, okay, how much does this incrementally help us type of a thing. It goes into this fundamentally changes our business. So we look for those things, so that helps a little bit into the early conversations. But we also look for entrepreneurs. We also look for teams that understand this thing and then have the ability to maneuver this a little bit more. So we kind of balance those two. So in most of the investments that we have done or evaluate, there's already a pull from some of the enterprises because they're trying to solve this as well. So they're trying to understand this. They're looking for partners. They're looking for solutions as well. So that reduces the cycle a little bit. But it is a active discussion that we have in terms of how do we look at these companies. So many of them have 3 to 9 months of sales cycle. And the good thing about some of these things is also the early reference account helps quite a bit. So it doesn't have to be a 3 to 9 months cycle every time. So we look for things like how are
reference accounts build up.
Yeah. So we look for those things, and then in some cases there are customers who actually want to move really fast, where the sales cycle is much faster as well. So it's able to get the team to figure out some of these things, like go after some of these things to get a quick adoption and use that as a reference to. But I think the larger point about large enterprises taking longer sales cycle is definitely there. I think you try to solve this in several smaller ways, and I think the main one would be solving a very huge problem for an enterprise where the value proposition itself doesn't need to be sold very, very aggressively. It's understood. It's just the point of how to integrate and how do you get that.
Okay. So I think the bottom line, what I'm hearing is that you're quite open to these kinds of situations, and you understand the complexity of the selling and so forth, and you're willing to work with the entrepreneurs, which is good. Because there is a set of investors who are using these MRR, ARR benchmarks, and they want to see $1 million annual revenue run rate before they want to write the checks. And that's for certain companies, that especially since you're doing deep tech takes investments to build a product and to get to any MRR whatsoever. So it's it's not so easy to show those numbers.
That's right. Yeah, it is a process. It is a cycle. The one thing about some of the products in deep tech would be that you've seen this as well. There's quite a bit of investment up front, but then when there really is an adoption, you see much faster upside as well. We have seen companies that go from $1 million annual revenue to $30 million, which is not uncommon once the product market fit is there because it's a product.
Right. And some of these deep tech problems, if they're solving a big problem that has lots of ROI, they're big deals. You could have $1 million deal, and as you say, with 30 customers, you're at $30 million, and then you don't need much financing. These kinds of deals, once you hit your stride, these types of businesses don't need much money to build.
Right. I think there's an upfront investment, but once the fit is there, a lot of these things actually don't require as much investments, and
Exactly.
it is, as we look in the last 10 years, software companies actually raising more money than some of the deep tech companies because the cost of sales is still higher. So some of the software as a service startups still keep raising money, large amounts of money, which because they need to continue to acquire customers and they need to deploy capital to acquire them.
So this is a good segue into my last set of questions that I want to explore with you, which is the tension that we face in the industry between this hyper funding, too much funding, flushing companies with capital, blitzscaling, blah, 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 versus building more fundamentals-oriented, capital-efficient companies. Where do you sit in this debate?
So there is never a one-size-fits-all. That is one of the learnings being in the early stage ecosystem for 25 plus years, is that there is never a rule. There is never a rule of thumb. So for certain companies or certain areas, maybe the high capital garner the market makes sense. But I think it's also a learning, and I think it's true as well, is that innovation cannot be driven primarily through capital. Because if that has been the case, these would have been taken, Silicon Valley would have been taken over by capital providers long time ago. Right?
Yeah.
I don't believe that fundamentally. Obviously, there are sectors and there are segments where capital can provide good acceleration and then get that market going. But in a lot of other areas, capital doesn't provide that because market innovation can only take in so much capital. So I actually don't want to call it as a generalization, but outside of a very few areas, this concept of throwing capital to get that hyper growth does not work. And which is probably what we're learning in the last 5 years as well, because probably outside of certain areas, this did not actually work. And we actually fundamentally believe in fundamental breakthroughs which require capital but cannot be, it's not in lieu of innovation. You can just use capital to go there, right? So I think there's a little bit of that correction happening actively at this point. There are still certain areas where this could still apply, where this largely it's operations driven, enabled by technology, where maybe capital can help. But many of these other areas, we do not think that is the way this will work. And some of the things that we're seeing that as well very, very quickly. Actually, this whole capital-driven thing started out like maybe 5-6 years ago. Already people are seeing that doesn't work in all the cases, or most of the cases it does not work. So we actually believe that innovation needs to be driven. Capital plays an important part, but it cannot be in lieu of just pumping capital.
Yeah, good. So we are definitely on sync on that. Okay. So that gives us a good understanding of Mobile Foundation Ventures. And folks, Karthee will be staying on for the entrepreneur pitches, so you can ask questions later on in the program. That was very helpful to discuss the large enterprise-facing businesses that are working on deep technology, which is an area where we do quite a bit of work. We have a lot of companies that are working in this mode, and they all have the kinds of issues that we discussed. So this will be a valuable insight for them.
Thank you.
Okay, we will move to the entrepreneur pitch section of the conversation today. Let me set a bit of expectations before we jump in. This is a safe working session. There is no agenda whatsoever other than giving you candid feedback, constructive feedback with which you can accelerate your venture. So don't feel nervous, don't feel defensive, but you will have to take feedback that may not be exactly what you want to hear. That is the point of this whole program, is where you can get candid feedback. It is not helpful for you to be told what you want to hear. You need to be given insights and input that you need to hear. So please be open, don't be defensive. It is very possible that you may disagree with my feedback, with Karthee's feedback. That's okay, it's your venture. You are the final decision maker on it. But remember one thing, not all businesses can raise money, not all businesses should raise money, and raising money doesn't necessarily guarantee success. You may have a business that requires a different type of business building. So not all business, a very small percentage of business actually fit the venture capital model. So one of the issues we see in our program, because it's a very democratized program, it's available in every country in the world, and you don't really need to be referred to it. You can directly come to the website and engage with us. So we do see a lot of misconception and misunderstanding. Everybody thinks that they need to raise venture capital. This is one of the issues that you have to be aware of, is that not every company should be venture funded. We're going to start with Prashant Patil. Prashant, could you please unmute your line and talk about your company?
Hi, hi Samana. Hi, Mr. Karthee. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk on this forum. My name is Prashant Patil, and I'm from Pune, India. Next slide, please. Yeah. So my venture is into helping customers to find their parking. Nowadays, it's our life begins each day the moment you find a parking space. So this is the everyday scenario for all of us, and so my venture is into we are helping customers to find their parking. So it is based on AI based. It's a flawless real-time parking assistant. Next slide, please. So these are the problem areas which we are tackling, not finding parking spaces for car or bike in the city, on streets, also in municipal parking spaces, mostly in India, malls, common parking areas. Also, we are not able to find parking, or maybe we are not aware whether the parking slot is available just by the street. So also in India, there are odd and even parking signs. So on the odd dates, you have to park on the left side of the road, and on the even dates, you have to park your vehicles on the right side of the roads. So this is the general confusion to all the bike riders and car owners usually happens, and our municipality boards are not clear, so we can't identify whether this is odd side or even side. So this is also we are going to tackle. Also, there is no clarity on no parking. So this is a big issue actually, and it's a great revenue generation for RTO. So there is always a no parking board, and it says, okay, no parking from right side 10 meter, left side 10 meter. So there is no clarity over this. It's everywhere. I visited many cities, and it's everywhere. So this is where also we want to give a clarity to our consumers that, okay, this is the road, on this road, the spot where you are standing right now is 10 meters no parking. So like that. So also the charges taken by the contract parking agencies, because most of the government parking lots are outright. So it is given on a contract to run by somebody. So they are not charging as per the government predefined rates. So if it is 15 rupees per hour for a car, they are charging 20 rupees or 25 rupees, so like that. So we are going to tackle also this problem, and we are going to, be in a contact with them, and we will also give them application based that wherein they can track their revenues generated, how many cars are parked over there.
What you're discussing, I'm going to help you kind of accelerate your presentation a little bit. I think we understand what you're trying to do, and it sounds fabulous, except there are a couple of questions that are coming up in my mind, which I'm sure is coming up in everybody else's mind as well, is where do you get the data from? This is data that has to be collected, that has to be put, this is a database that you have to put together from scratch, most likely, city by city by city, neighborhood by neighborhood by neighborhood. So that's a monumental task, number one. Number two, you were talking about real time, so that means that you need ways to notify your system when parking spots get taken. So that means you need sensors on that end. that means you need to convince municipalities to work with you on all that. So it's a fairly complex problem.
Yes, I will. I will add my things in that. See, basically, it is. I'm making this so it can work on a current CCTV infrastructure. Like I will give you example of mall. So if it is a municipality parking, so we will install the infrastructure along with the CCTV. Nowadays, CCTVs are available everywhere. So this will be on the entry and exit point, and we know that particular mall, how much is the capacity for the car parks and how much is the capacity for the bike parks. So suppose it is 50 car parks and 200 bike parks. So we will only monitor in and out of the cars and bikes. So by that way, we can calculate, okay, how many car parks is available and how many bike park is available. So no need to install, like go into heavy infrastructure and install sensors at every point. But initially we can do this. After the the first phase is successful, and wherever it is required, that okay, in this particular mall or in this particular parking, we require sensors and quite more integration with the system, then we will do it. So
you're saying that you want to just do the parking lots, paid parking lots or free parking lots, and you want to kind of monitor the in and out from and to those lots, and that's where you want to start. Okay, that's a fair enough answer, actually.
Yes. Yeah. So this next slide, why we want to make it like real-time AI-based data for parking. It works with existing infrastructure, CCTV infrastructure. So it is cost-effective, utilizing current market infrastructure. So no need to go asset heavy, and we want to get associated with IRTDA and other agencies. So this is our MAD model. It's a monthly, yearly subscription. You can buy monthly or yearly passes, pre-book your parking spaces, turn-by-turn navigation system, and also they will get discounts and shopping coupons for the nearby shops or shopping centers. Also, they can.
You have to sell to every single parking lot owner, whether it's a municipality or a private parking lot. You have to sell.
Yes.
To them, and then you have to sell to consumers as well.
Yes. So it's B2B as well as B2C.
Okay.
Yeah. The second model is pay as you go. Like no need to buy monthly or yearly passes. They can find a spot on whenever they want to go into city. Pay as per the predefined rates by the government. Same, they will get turn-by-turn guidance system, and they will also get discounts coupons for shopping.
Okay.
Third one is rent your parking. Like anybody can rent their parking if they have a 5-car garage space or even 1-car garage space. They can rent it. They can create their listing for free. Drivers will book their spaces, and they can see on the on their panel that how much earning they are rolling, and they can also enjoy our Club One benefits, which is like discount coupons, shopping, and all those things. And all these payments will be done through app.
Okay.
Yes.
So where are you? Is this a company that has already started, or is this a concept stage company?
It is right now idea stage. So I'm currently working with, going to tie up with all the parking malls and in city, and then we'll be start rolling out this idea. So this is my marketing area, like social media, outbound, and body reference.
So let's turn it over to Karthee. Karthee, what's your initial comments for Prashant?
Yeah, so I invested in Waze, and then Waze was traffic, and then we obviously looked at the natural evolution of that, which is looking at parking. Have you looked at Spot Zero in the U.S.? They do similar things in the U.S., and they're scaled up quite nicely as well. Have you looked at Spot Zero and then looked for how they have gone to market and what kind of spaces that they have initially taken aboard, and then any learnings from there?
Not exactly. I mean, I have gone through 2, 3 of this companies on that. So one is Get My Parking in Chennai, and Get My Parking, yes, Get My Parking, and there is another two which is on US, which I have seen, but they are investing into complete infrastructure like sensors and the ticketing things and all these things. But right now to
Prashant,
go.
there is one thing that you have to figure out a strategy for is you will need a critical, you will have to pick one city where you launch, and you're going to
Yes.
need to get a critical mass of parking garages or facilities that you put on the app to launch with. Otherwise, every city that you go to, you will need to get a critical mass done. So one of the
Yes.
things that I would calculate is what is the cost involved for you to get enough garages or enough parking facilities on the app to be able to launch a city, and what is the TAM for that city? What is the cost, what is the TAM, how quickly can you grow the business, what is the customer acquisition cost, etc., to get one city up and running. And you have to make very, very precise calculations, and understanding how other people have done it or what their learnings, what their failures have been would be very helpful, because what you're taking on is not a simple problem to solve. And that you don't
Yes.
need to solve a simple problem. There's no need to solve simple problems. It's a good thing to solve complex problems, but you're going to need to get this off the ground. You're at a concept stage. How do you go from concept to business? And a corollary to that comment is that investors don't tend to fund concepts. So if you have to bootstrap your way to something viable, something kind of validated, how do you get there? This is the part that you're going to have to chalk out.
Yes, I have already started going out to the malls and the private parking lots. So I'm currently gathering their data, and they're also interested.
Pune?
Quite interested. Yeah,
You're
for
doing this
Pune.
in Pune? Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Yes. So I have already started going to the private owners and garages nearby. So they are also like very interested into this idea. They want to see, okay, that how much revenue they are generating, and those things. So they are quite interested into this. So I have already gathered almost 12 to 15 parking garages data. About the contractors who has taken it from the government, so they are like quite into 50-50 more. They are not quite sure like how the technology and things like this, but ultimately they will get convinced once they see the other people are using the technology and they are getting benefits from them. So ultimately they will get convinced. So currently I have listed almost around 12 garages into Pune, so which they are ready for opting the services, which is provided.
So when
by
are you launching this with these 20 garages?
Ma'am, currently, as I told you, I'm making my idea validation. So I'm making like how many customers are already ready to buy my services, and then only I want to raise the funds to.
You will not be able to, that's what I'm telling you. Don't assume that you're going to do this validation and then you're going to raise money to launch the company. The kind of company you're trying to do, you're not going to, I don't think it's going to work that way. You're going to have to bootstrap your way to launch, to some degree of, usage of the app and some parking garages that are working with you before you can raise money. So do not assume that you're going to now raise money to launch this company. That's the fallacy of your assumption. And the reason I'm pushing you on this is I already sense that you're assuming that, and that's not the right assumption. Karthee, what do you say?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the one thing which you should focus on is figure out the end-to-end user experience for a small focused area first. If big parking lots is the target market, then talk about how the end-to-end experience is going to be, and from the consumer perspective, from the parking garage perspective, and why it makes sense for them. and go launch in garages first and show that it works, and then use it as a model to scale up. So I agree with Sravana that you have to first go validate this thing. But I think I would emphasize push more on the end-to-end customer usage experience. If you look at how it's done in all the developed markets, there needs to be infrastructure to understand this as well. So that they used to send a code, and then the code gets integrated into the system of the parking garage, so they can validate it, and then you get a spot and things like that. How much of that infrastructure would you have to put in so that this gets done? So I would rather take a narrow use case first. Say, hey, it's a high-level problem. We understand that. Okay, but let's start with the low-hanging fruit, maybe parking garages where there is spaces, and let's solve the end-to-end customer use case experience. Go solve that first using using your bootstrap capital to show that, hey, look, there are people using 10 people using 20 people using a day, but we have solved the end-to-end use case. That's what you need to have, that end-to-end use case. Then you say, how can you scale up as well? So my feedback to you would be to go solve the end-to-end, because the problem with some of these things is like, how do you enforce? How do you ensure that the people at the parking garage know this, and then they can accommodate it and things like that? The problem is in all these details, and you'll find that there needs to be technology infrastructure provided, education required, and all those things. The more you spend time to solve it end-to-end, that is your barrier to entry as well, because everybody has to go through that as well. So I would push more into getting a small use case done very, very, very well, and then you can use that to then scale up.
Fully agree. All right. We'll move on to Prem Kumar next. Thank you, Prashant, for your presentation. Good luck validating and building something small that is fully fleshed out. And that is your path that's your basically next step, next goal. Prem, you are next.
Yes, ma'am. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Myself Prem Kumar from Tamil Nadu, Chidambaram. Basically, my concept is related to subscription-based e-commerce business. It's like I have decided to reduce the burden of working professionals and homemakers, students, and it's continuous it's a daily needs delivery application. The concept we are in ideation stage, not yet started. I have already I'm having a discussion with the working professionals and with my colleagues. They are interested in this product. Like working professionals, they are spending too much time on their works. So while coming, when they coming to their home, they feel tired. So it's difficult to go for shopping for their daily needs in that time. So maximum they will show interest in buying goods, daily needs in online. So they are searching for so many e-commerce platform, like our competitors like BigBasket, and sorry, ma'am.
What is going on here? So how is, for example, why is BigBasket not a competitor for you? Where is the gap in the market where there are big players like the Flipkarts and the BigBaskets and the Amazons of the world? Where do you position yourself? Where is the gap for you to have this company? What is the justification?
Flipkart, they are also started from small, and then they grow bigger by marketing their products. Like they have spread their company name.
Prem,
sorry, ma'am.
I don't think you've thought this through. What I'm seeing here is a lack of understanding of how to build startups and why you should choose to solve a problem. In general, if you come up with an idea, I'm talking now for everybody in the room and everybody listening to the recording. If you have a company idea in a very crowded space where there are already big players playing in that space, servicing that, catering to the same need, you have to ask yourself a very serious question. Is there any reason why you should be getting into this business? Is there a gap? Is there something that these big players are not producing, or not a gap, that a problem that they're not solving, or a product that they're not offering, or a service they're not offering? Unless there is a gap, there is absolutely no reason for you to get into this business. And it seems to me, based on what you've said here, this is a category where you have no business entering this category. You have nothing new to bring to the table. Karthee, would you like to comment?
I think you want to find the problem well, and then see where the gap is. I think, like Sumana pointed out, so I'm still not sure of the gap. So the busy professionals, how are they doing day-to-day shopping is what you're trying to say, and that is currently solved by the BigBaskets of the world and others. So you want to pin down the problem so that you can solve the problem. So I think at this point, maybe I will push a little bit more to figure out exactly what the problem is here that's not solved by the existing players. How they grow, whether they do big flip in marketing dollars or not, I think it's irrelevant. I think the question to focus on would be the problem statement here a little bit more crisply.
Prem, do you want to comment on what you heard from us?
Actually, our competitor BigBasket and and BigBasket, they are all focused main areas like Bangalore and other Mumbai cities. Not they focused in the Chennai area. So that's why I have decided to launch.
Yeah, but they're going to get into Chennai long before you get enough resources to get into. I mean, Chennai is not a small city. Chennai is a large city, so I'm sure it is very much on. If they're not, I have a hard time believing that they're not in Chennai, but I haven't looked into it, so I'll take your word for it. But I don't think that's a good enough reason. Now, there is something here. If you're talking about very small cities, like tier 2 cities, tier 3 cities, that may be a different story, because the economics of a small city, the prioritization of a small city, for a big basket, the top geographies are going to be the top 10 cities of India. Now, if you go beyond that, the tier 2 cities, the tier 3 cities, and if you want to create an offering focused on, that sector, that may be a gap. That may be a gap worth exploring. So if you can come up with cities that are off-center, that are, the next level of customers, that may be a line of thinking that you could pursue.
Okay.
Okay? All right.
Okay.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Carlos Delgado from Barcelona, Spain. Carlos, you're up next. Are you on?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for the invitation. I'm Carlos Delgado from Barcelona. The business idea the name is FinanVision. And so next slide, please. So I want to explain the idea. Basically, what we want to do is a technological solution, a software, where customer data from their enterprise planning, resource planning, or from their Excel source can connect with our platform, our software, in order to transform this data to create basically two things, dashboards and reports, to solve or to have them in the decision-making process, but specifically in the financial decision-making process. So three things specifically in that services is basically KPIs, treasury management, and budgeting or forecasting or planning services. Okay. We are looking for companies from medium or small sizes who has the problem regarding with companies with a lack of organized insight to analyze their financial performance. So they don't have good insights to analyze how they are in the financial aspect. Also, they don't companies who doesn't have cash flow control. So the treasury management is not well organized. And companies who has low productivity in the planning and forecasting process. The gap that we have found is that kind of services are offering more usually for big companies who can invest good money in that kind of services. But what we want to do is to offer that kind of services for smaller companies.
Okay. I think we understand the core value proposition. Let me ask a few questions, Carlos, to make it interesting for you as well as for us to see where you want to go with this. First question, are you doing this from scratch or are you doing this on top of a platform?
We want in the next 6 months to create a platform, a software, but as we don't have actually the right insights and the right validation with customers, what we are doing is consulting and testing that our customer really want to do, really have that kind of need that we have identified. So testing our hypothesis, right?
Okay. So my first suggestion to you, Carlos, is there is an article that I published this week. It's available on both our blog as well as on LinkedIn, called Bootstrapping by Piggybacking. You should read that.
Okay.
But what I mean by bootstrapping by piggybacking is for a company like you that has an idea and you have a value proposition that you have in mind, which has a reasonable amount of, it kind of makes sense that small, medium businesses don't have a lot of financial analysis going on and could use more data analysis to make decisions and so forth, but they neither have expertise nor technology, nor are people focusing on them. So yes, I think, you will need to validate it still, but it kind of makes sense. But your validation phase, I think, will be a lot more effective if you can go into a company and say, hey, do you have these problems? Do you have a cash management optimization problem? Do you have blah, blah, blah problem, budgeting problem, forecasting problem? Let me solve this for you. And if you can do that with a software right away, that's built on top of a platform. So the company that you should look at, I think a good fit for you would be a company like Alteryx. Are you familiar with Alteryx?
No. But I will look for it.
Yeah. So it's Alteryx. They have a very horizontal analytics platform on which
Can you repeat the name, please?
let me write it down in the public chat, ALTERYX.
Okay.
They have a platform on which they want developers to build products. So you could build something on top of there, and it's very easy to build products. So I think, and I know that there are others in geographies, there are people doing exactly what you're doing on top of the Alteryx platform and building significant companies. So I think you're going to need to find the niche where you want to go, maybe within Spain, maybe in Europe, maybe in a particular segment. You need to position this. There's a lot of positioning work that needs to happen in here, but from a technology strategy point of view, you should not try to develop this software from scratch. I strongly feel you should build this on top of a platform that already has a lot of the stack covered, and you bring in the extra application layer insights on top of it.
Okay, yeah. Understand, yeah. Yeah.
Karthee, would you like to comment? Just a second, Carlos.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree that what different thing needs to be done, because there is like up and down the stack now, from pretty small businesses to do basic stuff to much more complex things. There are quite a bit of software already out there. So the reason why something needs to be done for the specific things that you're talking about, it's still not very clear to me. And I agree that you could take an Alteryx and then build a engine on top of it for your specific set of customers. Is that are there other people doing it or not doing it, or is there a fundamentally differentiated solution for you to go build a company? Those things need to be understood. But this providing BI, providing dashboards, providing some basic analysis for small and medium enterprises, I would think that a lot of it is already addressed. So you want to think through how much of it is not addressed, or how much of it is just a lack of awareness in some small and medium companies, where it's just a matter of providing consulting or pointing to the right tool sets. I think that those are things that you probably want to answer. But I agree that
we go back to the same issue, and for this is again, I'm talking for all of you listening to this, is the question of the gap. You have to position whatever it is that you're going to do, whatever problem you're going to solve, you have to position that. You have to find the right segment where there is a gap. There's not an overabundance of competition. There is a pain point that's underserved, and so on and so forth. So here you have, for example, you have analyzed the market size for Barcelona by company size. What about by vertical? Who is the competition, and are there competitors catering to these different size segments? Is there a gap in a particular vertical where you can bring in vertical level expertise? And Barcelona is a great tourism city. It's it's got tons of hotels, and which are all small businesses. Is that a category where you might be able to apply your thinking about financial planning and forecasting for mid-sized hotels? So there's a lot of questions that you need to ask yourself to figure out where do you want to position this company. Even after choosing which software platform are you going to go on top of, you would still on top of that need to make other sets of decisions, which are segmentation choices and competitive positioning choices.
Yeah, wonderful, perfect.
Okay, so your thinking here, as I'm seeing it, is kind of half correct. Your question is, your strategy is to partner first and start validating, and then you're saying in 6 months you should build your own software solution. I'm saying no, you should build this entire company on top of somebody else's platform and provide that extra layer in that right positioning. So again, this is something we have a lot of methodology that you could learn from on how to do what you're trying to do. So if you hang on, I will explain in a moment. how to use the 1 million by 1 million program, I think you could benefit tremendously from the program.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah. We are very interested in the program. Maybe if you consider that the idea is scalable and is viable, so we can consider to get in.
Okay. All right. Let me take a few minutes, 2 or 3 minutes, to just point you to some resources that are good follow-up resources from this conversation. And before I do that, I want to ask you for a favor. If you like what we do here in 1 million by 1 million, please refer 1 million by 1 million to serious entrepreneurs. Look at the word serious, it's in bold, for a reason. There are lots of entrepreneurs out there who do not have the seriousness and the commitment to go the whole length. Entrepreneurship is very difficult. It's very time-consuming. It takes enormous commitment. It takes enormous resilience and enormous persistence. So we can't really make you successful unless you have that mindset. If you think you're going to try this, tinker with something for 3 months and you're going to become successful, this is not the kind of entrepreneurs we are interested in working with. Okay, resources-wise, everything is at 1Mby1M.com. You'll find a terrific blog that you'll learn a lot from just by following. You can look at the Entrepreneur Journeys book series. There are 12 volumes of case study-based books. Each book has 12 to 16 case studies, and we deal with different topics. And topics can be as esoteric, but as pragmatic as bootstrapping with a paycheck. You know, bills have to be paid. So when you start a company, this tension between going full-time and jumping in with both feet versus preserving an income with which to pay the bills. The bills have to be paid. You have to survive. You cannot succeed unless you can survive. Going out of business and running out of runway is not a way to succeed or survive. So, so this is just an example of one of the techniques we have developed, and it's a proven technique that's working in getting companies off the ground. So there are lots of those in this book series. It's a good starting point. These roundtables happen every week. 100,000 plus people have attended, so it's been going on, as I said, for a long time. Our full acceleration program is 1M Premium, where we offer extensive methodology guidance, a full curriculum, that's a digital curriculum accessible from anywhere. We help you with business development, potential customers, channel partners. We have similar sessions like this for our premium members only. Those are called private roundtables. And if you are fundable, when you are fundable, and we will work with you through that process of getting you to that stage if your business qualifies, we will also help you with financing. We have an excellent network of investors that we work with. So that's the premium program. I would recommend for each of you, go to the self-assessment on our website. There's a set of questions that investors would ask you. These are questions that you should ask yourself. If you get stuck, if you cannot answer some of these questions, most likely you need methodology guidance. Go study the curriculum. 1 million by 1 million basic is just $99 a month. If you spend 50 hours, 80 hours just on the curriculum, you're going to learn a lot, and it would get you much further in your strategic understanding of how to put one foot before the other with your venture. So go dig around on the website. All the programs, premium, basic, free, everything is described there. There are FAQs, video FAQs, a full description of the curriculum. It's a case study-based curriculum. Over 1,000 successful entrepreneurs have participated, and many of them have gone public, built unicorns, over 100 unicorn companies. I was just talking yesterday with a friend of mine who was an early case study in our program and has just gone public, Bill.com, René Lessard. You will find this case study in the program, and there are many like this. And you will find another 400 plus venture-funded companies, 400 plus bootstrap companies. We've really developed something that gives you the opportunity to stand on the shoulders of people who have done it before, and it's invaluable to learn from other people. You don't need to reinvent all the wheels by yourself. The early stage entrepreneur's journey is first time entrepreneur's journey is a very steep learning curve. Our methodology is bootstrapped, capital efficient lean startups, and the philosophy is bootstrap first, raise money later, because that's the way the market works. Investors typically are not investing in concepts, and that is just the reality of today's market. So, in terms of next free roundtables, we are breaking for the holidays now, and then I'm going to India actually on the 30th, so I will be traveling for a bit. We will have private roundtables while I'm traveling, but not the public ones. So January 23rd is the next public roundtable, and the January 30th is the following one. So please register, and we will have slots available for you. Now, you know that we also do in-person rendezvous in Silicon Valley at Cafe Boroni. The next ones, actually this one is, sorry, the slide, I confused the slide. So Cafe Boroni Roundtable, the next one is on January 22nd. We did one yesterday, it was very nice, and we look forward to seeing more of you on the January 22nd rendezvous. And then we have online rendezvous on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. And the next ones are January 21st and January 28th. So we did one again this week, 2 days ago on Tuesday. So typically we're doing these on Tuesdays, and you can ask questions. These are typically kind of Q&A sessions. So we're giving you lots of touch points with which you can connect with us and access the resources. It is a complete democratization of entrepreneurship education, incubation, and acceleration. So take advantage of it as you need and use whatever touch point is convenient for you. If you want to talk to someone from our team, contact Irina Patterson. She will answer any questions you may have about the program. So we'll go to Q&A. You can ask questions to me or to Karthee. He's still here. I see one question. Let me open this up. One question Prashant is asking. Oh, Prashant, don't send me private questions, please. Use the public chat, send to all participants so that everybody can see the questions. I will read out your question, Prashant. You're asking, even to work with one garage to bring POC, I will require to invest in application and other infrastructure, which provided AI data to app, and which is quite not possible by bootstrapping as per Indian average economic background. Any suggestion on this? Yes, the suggestion is bootstrapping with a paycheck. Keep your job and go start building your application, start recruiting a customer, and start validating. Keep your job. That's how you do it. Anybody else? Any other questions? Karthee, if you have any comments, if you want to share any thoughts with the audience, please feel free to discuss.
Yeah, I think that the one thing that at that earlier stage would focus on would be to understand the problem well, and then focus on what you're going to offer as a solution well. I think the biggest mistake that I see oftentimes is very quickly talk about different things. I think you fundamentally just spend a lot of the focus on, here is a problem that's not solved, and here is how we're going to solve it, and this is the right way to solve it. If you can convince that, I think the 90% of the problem is solved. Whether it is convincing employees to join, whether it's convincing customers to adopt, whether it's convincing investors, it's all the same thing. I've seen people very quickly go into revenue model, very quickly go into competition differentiation, very quickly go into other areas. But I would say at that stage, spend 90% of your thing to very, very clearly understand the problem statement that, and then what exactly you're solving. If there's a fundamental problem there and then you're fundamentally solving it, everything else in my mind falls into place. I think creating revenue stream for that, it will not be an issue. Having differentiation against the competition will not be an issue. So my suggestion would be at the earlier stage, understand that. Be my suggestion.
Great. Carlos Delgado, your question is, in the 1Mby1M service, may we receive feedback from you or just we check the material? Well, depends on which service you subscribe to. If you subscribe to 1Mby1M Basic, that is curriculum only, it does not include any project-based coaching. If you subscribe to 1 million by 1 million premium, you can get feedback from me as well. So choose which one you want to subscribe to. Tristan Bailey, have you seen investment in companies that are a product, but the main value is business training that is offered with it? Tristan, yes. The category that you should study is commercial open source. Commercial open source is a category where the product is given for free, and then all the monetization happens through support, training, and premium products. So that's a category that operates entirely on the business model that you're talking about. So if you have a product that can be open sourced, then this thesis would work just fine. Any other questions, comments? All right, folks, we are going to adjourn the session today. Thank you for coming. Happy holidays. Karthee, thank you for participating and staying through, and I will see you this afternoon and in person at my place at 4 p.m., yes?
Yes. Thank you. Good talking to you. Good talking to the folks here. Good luck and happy holidays.
Bye-bye, everybody. We'll see you in the new year.